Okay, awesome. We're going to dive right into it. Let me share my screen and get to my slides. This is where you get this is the behind the scenes part. Sorry, guys. I don't know a smoother way to do this. Maybe somebody who's super smart will teach me one day. But for now, this is what I'm doing. Okay. There we go. Great. Oh, the window is dragging the screen. Okay, I think, can you guys see?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Just making sure. It told me a weird message. So um it says my screen sharing is paused, but you guys can see it. Yes.
It
You can,
says like presenter window. The window is just for you.
oh, that's not
Your
helpful.
founder. Yeah.
What is happening? Let's try again. Hold on. Let's try again. Why is it doing that? That's so weird. I think Zoom has updated. Okay, guys, sorry. 1 second. Everything's fine. I'll just edit the recording later and all will be well. What's happening? Okay, hold on. Let me move this. I've never had this happen to me before. This is new. Okay. What is this? Okay. Sorry, guys. Give me like 1 second. I don't know. Okay, let's get into it. Industry update. For anybody that did not just see what happened on recording, it was you know what? It's an adventure with technology every day. So thanks for hanging with me. December 2023 industry update. I'm so excited to get into this with you guys. I've been doing some research all week, and today's going to be great. I'm actually going to be directly sharing the slides with you guys that are direct from NAR, from Dr. Lawrence Yun, sharing economic outlooks and predictions for 2024. So it should be super empowering to you. And also I want to give all credit to Dr. Lawrence Yun because that is where this knowledge is coming from today. I will just preface this by saying this is one thing I always like to start these Zooms with is this thought. Just always embrace this. Perspective gives you hope. And that's one of my main goals with doing these on a regular basis is just to continue to give you hope. Your job as the agent and our fiduciary duty to our clients and to the public in general is to be the person that can share actual facts and data, because we all know that majority of people are getting their, real estate knowledge and news from, social media and news channels that are not really telling the truth. So that is this is a tool to empower you and also to help you predict your future and make a plan strategically. Like I always say, no matter what's happening in the market, remember the economy does not dictate your success. It dictates your strategy and how you choose to communicate. There's business out there to be had. And right now it's just about working differently in order to go get it. And so that's what I hope this can equip you with today, is to help you to work differently and think differently and just feel equipped and empowered as you're moving forward with your clients. Remember, when we're talking about the economy, these are always your magic numbers, 2246. Just like make it a little, we need to make a little jingle to remember it or something, right? 2246 every month, anytime. Like you as an agent, you can use this to empower yourself. You can go on Google at any time and say, tell me about the inflation rate, tell me about GDP, employment, appreciation, etc. And as long as you know these numbers, you can very quickly help you and your clients feel empowered and knowledgeable, because this is the magic number formula that we want to be at for a healthy economy. We want GDP to be right around 2%, inflation to stay right around 2%, real estate appreciation right around 4%, and unemployment below 6%. And so when we're there, that's when everything's smooth and good. Otherwise, things start to get out of whack. So that's what we're always looking at kind of as a whole. And now we're going to get into Dr. Lawrence Yun's slides. I'm so excited to share the knowledge that he brings. He is so smart and analytical and brings so much perspective that I know makes my brain grow. So I hope it helps you guys too. So the first part we're going to talk about is just the general outlook in the economy and what things have been looking like. So I took a ton of notes, and I'm just going to kind of share highlights with you. Every slide we won't spend tons of time on, but I'm really going to double click on the ones that I think are going to be most empowering for you, and helpful. So of course, he talked about the high borrowing costs from the Fed's aggressive policy, meaning interest rates, and the funds rate, how much the Fed is charging to the banks in order for the banks to get money to lend. And as we know, rates have been really high, and that's just that trickle down effect of what the Fed is charging to the banks, and then that affects what the banks charge to our clients, right? So I looked up today, the interest rate I saw today for a 30-year fix is about 7.6%. So as you can see, we've seen that consistent increase. And the interesting thing that I think has been like the conundrum of the time that has challenged the Fed and just the whole system is that we're still spending money. Americans are still spending money as if we were in pre-COVID times, or not pre-COVID, as if we were in COVID times. We're still in that like COVID spending environment mentality just as a country and society. And so that normally when they bring the interest rates way up high, it causes people to spend less. And that has not been the case because there's been an infusion of cash into our economy from, all sorts of different things, home equity, stimulus money, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we've been seeing. Now we'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but he did mention they are predicting rates will level off around the 6s and 6 starting in Q1. And they predict that it's going to stay around 6 all year in 2024, which is amazing. And also really shifts our strategy right now, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Okay. The next slide that he talked about was the downgrade of the USA debt. So you can see the federal outlay is the blue, tax receipts is the orange. And so you can see the blue is like way higher than the orange. So basically what this means is as a country, we are continuing to pile up debt more so than in the past. Interesting survey recently found that Americans are still spending money like in COVID times, like I just mentioned, and they have the cash, right? They're spending money because they have the cash. But what also has ticked up is that their credit card spending has ticked up exponentially. And we've found that credit card spending is higher than it has ever been. Credit card debt is higher than it has ever been. So that's an interesting challenge right now in the market, is just sort of like where people are at mentally and like the choices they're like mentally, meaning their mindset around money right now and the choices that they're making around it. But that definitely affects us and the whole economy. He also discussed damage from high interest rates, which it is a thing, right? It is a thing. We have seen home sales go down due to the high interest rates, commercial real estate transactions down, commercial real estate property prices are down. The commercial world took an even bigger hit this year than the residential world. So that's something all in itself. Of course, community banks were in a huge challenge over all of that, the economic slowdown overall, and the interest expenditure of federal debt rising. So that's just good knowledge to have. I think we all probably can agree with those things. And then he spent a lot of time talking about weaker home sales. And, I know this is not a lovely slide. It's not like our favorite thing to talk about, but it is an important slide for us to be aware of and knowledgeable about. So you can see this measures home sales from 2017 through now, and existing home sales, meaning not new construction, existing home sales are down 21% year to date in our country. And he's predicting, it will continue to go down through the end of the year. So that's only a couple of weeks, but that's the trend that we're looking at right now, is that as things are sitting with the circumstances that we're in, there's nothing that would point to home sales randomly increasing with where we are right now. So if you felt that, that's the fact. All throughout our country, home sales are down 21%. And I like to also say that means there's still 79% of good, right? So, but it is down 21%. Now, in contrast, new construction home sales are actually up. So that's really, really important to know right now. They're up 5% year to date. They say it's back to pre-COVID pace and sales, which is, as an agent, first of all, be thinking about this. If you represent a builder or a new construction account, or if you don't, it might be a good time to think about it, right? Because it's looking to remain very steady. That is going to continue to be a point of growth in our market. And so it's definitely something to be aware of if you're thinking like, well, why are existing home sales down and new construction home sales up? It's really like two big reasons that he talked about, that NAR really is saying that they're predicting that it'll stay up in 2024 for these two reasons. Number one is, of course, the one we can all probably guess, which is low inventory, right? The real thing about that, when you're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, but like it's part of the reason why it's specifically new construction is because people, if there's low inventory, people can't find what they want. Or even let's say it gets hot in the spring and it's low inventory and high demand, even more so, it could affect the new construction market because people will build if they can't find what they're looking for. And by the way, feel free to put anything in the chat, ask questions, comments, etc., as we're going along. And I forgot to mention this, but please feel free to. I would love to hear how you feel like you're experiencing the market right now, if things feel like they're up, down, or steady for you with your business too. So put that in the chat. And then the second reason that the NAR is predicting that this is going to continue to be steady and stay up is that builders are being very competitive right now, offering higher commissions, bonuses, et cetera, to attract people. So that's what we're seeing there. And then generally, I mean, it's still a very low inventory market, right? So this is their charts that they shared as far as existing, as you can see, inventory of existing homes low, new homes high. Overall, it's still low inventory regardless. And so my thought for all of us on that is that more so than ever, listings has got to be our focus for 2024. Like it has got to be top priority above everything else, listings. It's really the only way to take control of your business and help impact the market in a positive way that helps your clients and yourself is create more inventory, because we don't have enough, and that's not going to change magically overnight. So I think about it like, what's your 20%? As an agent moving into 24, it's your top 20% is looking for listings, finding listings, servicing listings, and then your 80% is going to be leads and leverage otherwise, right? Because if you can increase the amount of listings that you have, your whole business is going to get easier and smoother in 2024. So I just think that's really a thought to be thinking about right now. And also, you know, the interesting thing about maybe looking into, if you don't already have a builder relationship or a new construction account of some sort that you're, you know, working with a builder in some way or have connections, it's a great thing to lean into right now, because also remember, that's going to continue to stay up, and building inventory, new build inventory eventually becomes existing inventory, right? Because sometimes people will buy because they can't find what they want, and they might only stay in it for a couple years and sell. So that's going to be a win for us next year for sure. This is referring to the commercial market, but I just wanted to put it on here, just good information to have, which, by the way, sorry, some of these are like this. That's how it was sent over to me from NAR. So I guess they have some technical difficulties with their formatting. Maybe they don't use Macs. I don't know. But anyways, office vacancy rate is still rising. So that just means generally, obviously it's more of a commercial conversation, but generally that's going to still be a challenge consistently for anybody that's thinking about going into commercial or leaning into commercial. I think it's really important to be aware right now that there's some significant challenges in that world. Companies are continuing to go hybrid, and that's probably not going to change in the near future. So just good knowledge to have for sure. Okay, so talking about why is the Fed raising interest rates? And I thought this was interesting. We talk about this really every month, the thought around interest rates and all of that. And I know I mentioned earlier, that's really the Fed's only lever in order to influence spending and inflation is, okay, if we need to slow down inflation, then we need to raise interest rates so that consumer spending slows. That's really their main lever that they have to impact and influence the economy. And so that's why we've seen that. And then that's the interesting conundrum, is that it hasn't made the impact that it usually would historically. So consumer price inflation is at 3.7% as of September. And even I looked up November's as well, and it was like basically the same, you know, I think it was like 3.4%. And so the thing is, remember 2246, our goal is for a happy economy, we need inflation to be at about 2% and hover right there. And so it's still too high, and that does not serve us well, obviously, when it comes to just costs for people and what that looks like. The other thing that was interesting that I just wanted to point out is they shared this interesting slide about price growth by key items. And I'm sure you can just do a mental survey for yourself. Am I feeling this? We probably all are. I did think the one thing that I thought was interesting is that they said airfare is down 13%. I don't know what that comparison is of, because does anybody else feel like planes are still very expensive, plane tickets? I'm like, but I mean, I guess it's probably cheaper than a year ago, but not by a dramatic amount. So anyways, but you can see everything else besides medical service and airfare, everything is up as far as costs. That's what price growth means, right? Cost. New cars, electricity, gas, food. We all feel that every day. Lodging away from home is up. And then you've got rent and car insurance. Car insurance is up 18%, almost 19%, which is huge. And then the one I wanted to sort of double click on here is rent. Rent is up 7.4%, which I know we've all probably had that conversation, experienced that with our clients. We're seeing that out there. And what's interesting is apartment rent construction growth, like new apartment buildings being built, is at a 40-year high. I'm sure we all can relate to that too. Anybody, like, you're driving down the road and you're constantly seeing apartment buildings being built. Like, the more I've thought about this, it's like I see them everywhere. It's kind of mind-boggling. And so why have rents not come back down? Right? One of the big, stop doing that. Thank you. Oh my gosh. There we go. So one of the big things around why rents have not come down, a lot of it has to do with general supply and demand, but the biggest thing that's impacted here that I think we can be aware of strategically moving forward is we're seeing a lot of rental situations with first-time home buyers. So meaning there's a lot more demand, which is why rental rates are staying up. And it's due to first-time home buyers that are having to rent versus buy because of student loan debt. Now, you do also have some people that are like, oh, we can't find the house we want right now, so we're going to rent and wait. But that's not as significant as the massive amount of student loan debt that's coming due right now because of policies that have gone on, and the amount that first-time home buyers are experiencing. Student loan debt is higher than it's ever been. And it affects, of course, their debt to income ratio. And so that's the challenge, is especially with the higher interest rates, they can't get approved for a mortgage because of that new debt to income ratio they have now that their student loan debts are active and due. So that's a big challenge. You're seeing people obviously live at home for a lot longer, and you're also seeing a lot more on financing and closing documents. You're seeing a lot more gifted funds, so money from parents, things like that, because this is such a challenge for first-time home buyers. The good news is that they do predict that rent is going to soften in 2024. So that's probably going to mirror some of what we're going to see in the industry as far as if interest rates are going down, rent will probably also soften. So that's the positive there. Now, these slides I think are the coolest. Feel free to take a screenshot. I love these visuals. The next one especially, I think you're going to love. But this shows you the home price change in 2023. So this is Q2. And so you can see the year over year change. This is from last year to this year, right? And so you can see in the Carolinas, our home prices went up. South Carolina, 8.5% and 7.5% for North and South Carolina year over year. Now, here's the really interesting one. Feel free to take a screenshot of this, or I'll send the slides out later and you can print it off, laminate it, put it in your your listing presentations, because this is the home price change from the onset of COVID, so Q1 2020, to the current year, Q2 2023. Look at these numbers, you guys. It's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, look at this. In South Carolina, our home prices have increased by 51.5%. That means somebody that bought a house, let's say before 2020, their home value has gone up on average by 51.5%. North Carolina, 55.9%. Florida, I mean, we're not in Florida, but just interesting, over 61% home price increase. So that's huge. And here's what I want you guys to write down and think on. I mentioned this briefly last month, and I want to come back to it because it's really important. Write this question down. What are all these people doing with their equity? This is a huge strategic idea that I want to encourage you to really think on, of how you can implement this into your business right now, because what are all these people doing with their money? That means majority, 80% of homeowners have over 50% equity in their homes right now. And this is an advantage and a tool that you can use to serve your clients in the community, because even if they aren't going to move, they might not be, they might want to stay in their home. but they have so much equity. This is a great opportunity for them to leverage their equity and use their money to make them money. You know, pretty much every top wealth advisor out there that I've ever learned from will say that's one of the smartest things you can do to build wealth. Is it's not about you always having to like use your active cash. It's more about use your money that you have and leverage it to make you more money. And so start having that conversation with your database, in your world. What would it look like for them to have an investment property, a rental property? It can be a really, really powerful time to think about in 2024. What if every quarter you hosted a millionaire real estate investor seminar? And here's the thought that I would do if I were you is, yes, talk to your sphere, right? Like who is in my world that I can talk to and say, hey, you're a homeowner and I'm having this awesome millionaire real estate investor seminar. I see that your equity is up this much. I would love to help you with a wealth plan around how you can start building wealth through investments, right? So but then I want to challenge you to take it a step further, because how you can really catapult your business this year is not just by talking to your sphere, but by working through your sphere, meeting your sphere's sphere. Okay. So think about your, close, like your VIPs. For example, what if you called them and said, hey, I just learned this awesome fact that in our state, home equity is up over 51%. And I just thought of you because I know your home equity is up, blah, 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 right? Who do you know that might be thinking about buying a second property, an investment property or a second home in 2024? I'm hosting a millionaire real estate investor seminar, and I would love to have them come as our special guest. And as a thank you on your behalf, I'm actually going to gift them with the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book. You can write a note on the inside, we'll sign it and give it to them and thank them for coming. And I'd love to support them in building their wealth. You're empowering your clients and connecting you with their world too. And so I think that's a really powerful strategy, because just imagine, if you could do this systematically, let's say you only are connected to 200 people. If you are connected to those 200 people, but then you also connect strategically to their world of 200 people that they all probably know, because on average, people know about 200 people. That's 40,000 potential people that might raise their hand that they're interested in working with you, right? Let's say you give yourself a 3% conversion rate and be really conservative. That's 1,200 potential opportunities that you could take in 2024. Now, chances are you don't want to sell 1,200 houses in 2024. So just imagine a sliver of that, like, 1% of 1,200 is 120 units next year, just by working that one approach of meeting people through your people with very specific targeted resources. So that's just one idea of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. I'm happy to brainstorm with you on other ones, because of course, there's so many other reasons why people would move. Who do you know that's having a baby? Who do you know that's getting divorced? Who do you know that's downsizing because their kids moved out, went to college, right? All of those different things. And this is a tool for you based on this equity situation, by the way. This is why we're not going to see the same situation like we did in 2008. So you are seeing right now a slight uptick as far as more turning to cash sales. So it's just because of interest rates, right? Less people are getting lending, and we're seeing more cash sales right now because the motivated buyers are just motivated to do that. So obviously there's still financed deals, but we're just seeing that little small uptick right there. And then, like I was just mentioning, distressed property sales is basically non-existent. Look at that. It's like at the lowest it could possibly be. And that's why, it's because of the equity situation. So like you think about when things happened in 2008, so many agents went out and got certified for, how to work with distressed properties, and made that a huge focus of their business because it was necessary, right? Because people were upside down in their home because they had a 2-year ARM that then, their home equity dropped, the interest rates ballooned, and they were not able to refinance because of that. And so there was so much issue there. And because we have so much equity in our homes now, that is like a non-existent problem, because even if, let's say, worst case scenario, right, interest rates ballooned on their payments and the home values drop, they still have over, on average, 50% equity in their home. So there's basically no distressed property situation. So this is not like a part of our strategy that we're really looking at moving forward. It's going to be more about empowering the people to use their equity, and then finding the people that are motivated. They also found that days on market is lengthening. So this really is just, in my opinion, just getting back to seasonality, right? Of course, the last 3 or 4 years, there's been zero seasonality. It's just been mayhem. But we're going to see this again. If any of you have been in the business for longer than 3 or 4 years, you can probably remember when it was like, woo, spring market, it's hot, things are happening. And we click along. And then you get to the winter holiday month and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I need a closing, and it's dead. And then it revives again. And that's seasonality that's historically normal in the real estate world. And so we're seeing that again. So that's a lot of what's happening right now. And obviously interest rates are a part of that too. The other thing they found, average number of offers received on sold properties. So this, I think, is very, we have to look at our local market, and I'm sure we'd all agree this is a little bit different for us. So like nationally, the majority of the country is not seeing as many multiple offers, and that is definitely more of a challenge. And I think we would all agree our multiple offers are down. However, the market is still, I mean, there's a lot of people that still want to move to Charlotte. There's a lot of demand here still. And so in my experience, you guys can put in the chat if you disagree or if you have another perspective. In my experience, I feel like what we're seeing here is homes that are beautiful, that don't need a lot of work, and that are priced aggressively will probably go into multiple offer situations. Homes that need work, are priced too high, or, you know, other situations that are weird are going to sit. And that's what I feel like we've been seeing. So I'm interested if you guys see anything else, but that's just what they had to say about that. As far as unemployment goes, so the job market, this is just total payroll jobs. So generally unemployment is extremely low, like extremely low. So we want, remember 2246, we actually want unemployment to sit at around 6%. And we're sitting at about 2.5% unemployment right now. What this means is there are more jobs than people that want to have jobs. Well, it means a couple things, really. It means, number one, everybody that wants to have a job probably does. And it also means that people are a little bit more picky, meaning the available jobs are not jobs that they want to have, if that makes sense. So, for example, an Axios survey just came out, and it said the majority of people, there was a national survey about the job market, and it found that the majority of people surveyed said that they should be making more than $100,000, which is great. And, you know, of course, like I want everyone to, you know, do big things. And that's not the reality of, like, you know, well, if all the jobs are, you know, fast food restaurant jobs, for example, that's not that. And so that's part of it, is the available jobs. They're having a challenge hiring because of people's mindset around that. And they don't want the jobs available. They're also more, so you can see, this is interesting. It is extremely low, but it has slightly upticked, which is a good thing for us, by the way, because remember, we want to get up here to 6. That's the healthy place for unemployment. So we're still way low, but it is slightly moved up. There are more full-time employees right now, though, based on surveys that say they're living check to check right now more than ever before. I think it goes back to the spending problem that we have in our country right now, the mindset around that, and also the rising cost of everything, right? So unemployment is crazy low. People don't want the available jobs. If they need a job, they want to make at least over 100K because of cost of living and many things, right? And people are still living check to check, which is super interesting and just interesting to be aware of. Wage growth is weak. So all of this will hopefully be improving next year. Okay. So let's talk about the market forecast. So what did NAR find from their research and studies that we can expect to see in 2024? So first of all, they're talking about mortgage rates. And yes, like I mentioned earlier, they are projecting mortgage rates to fall, fixed rate to be between 6 to 7% by early spring. What I thought was interesting about this was that everything I've been researching up to November has been saying Q2, which like probably April, we're going to see start to move into the 6. And what I'm starting to hear now is that it could be sooner, maybe closer to the end of Q1, that we'll start seeing those interest rates. And then they're predicting that they will flatten out and kind of stay and sit around the low 6s for the remainder of the year, which is great for people that want lower interest rates. And I feel like this is so important that we're thinking about this with our strategy and how we're working right now, because this is going to create a whole new rush of buyers back to the market that we're not willing to pay the higher rate. I heard a great analogy yesterday from Jason Abrams, and he was talking about right now what we're seeing in the market with this interest rate situation. It's like this, like if you're bow and arrow, right? And the bow is pulled back like you're going to shoot an arrow, and that tension, that's like what we're seeing right now, because If and when rates go back to the low sixes, especially if they ever get below 6 and get to 5.5, but definitely say if you're in that 5.5 to 6.5 range, it's like this tension is going to be released, right? There's going to be this release of business that's going to happen. And he predicted that it's probably going to be one of the greatest runs in the real estate industry in history because of the cash situation that people have right now, the equity situation, the baby boomer situation with handing down money, and the interest rates. So what really I think is important to think about with this is it would be best right now, if you're thinking about what's my strategy in the end of December and the beginning of 2024, the best agents right now are doing everything that they possibly can to take as much mind share as possible right now. Remember, when people get ready to buy or sell, they typically know 9 agents. They typically are going to call one. They call the one that is top of mind. They call the one that they're closest to in proximity or emotionally. Now, if you live in their basement, you'll be close to them proximity wise, but you can't live in 500 people's basements, right? So you need to be close to them emotionally. And that means right now we've got to be gobbling up, like planting the seeds of mind share with everyone that we're connected to. The ones that will have explosive growth in the coming year are the ones who are doubling down on connecting and lead genning right now. Like, yes, you want to also put things under contract and take new listings, and of course, but if I were to say, what's your top priority to put your energy into right now? Lead gen, lead gen, lead gen, fill your database, connect. And how are you going to have meaningful connections? How are you going to connect with your sphere, your world in ways that matter more than just here's a market report? Like, how are you giving value to their lives? It's really like thinking about some years it's about harvesting, some years it's about planting. Right now, especially in the end of this quarter, beginning of next, it's about planting. So have the conversation with your buyers right now that it's a great time to buy if they want to avoid competition and multiple offers, because that is coming. And then if they're still not ready, nurture, 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 nurture. You want to be the one that they think of when things go gangbusters in the new year. So exciting and interesting, right? Because it's going to be a different vibe. And then the other thing to think about that they discussed is the pent-up sellers. So this is something we're going to see in 2024 as well. And really over the next 2 years, they found that there's really a lot of people that have just been waiting and waiting to sell because of interest rates and all of the things. And they can't wait anymore. This is what we've seen over the past 2 years. We've had 7 million newborn babies. We've had 3 million marriages, 1.5 million divorces, 7 million people that turn 65 plus, 4 million deaths, 4 million net new jobs, 50 million job switches. All of these people are pent-up sellers that really can't wait any longer to moving into 24 because it's a need, right? They're not moving out of I feel like it. They're moving out of a need, and it's an emotional pent-up reason. So that's really going to be who you're targeting when you're thinking about listings and how do I find the right people that are ready to sell. And when I was talking about going through your sphere, who your 200 people know that they can connect you with, these are the types of people you want to be targeting. Imagine if every month in the year you just did a different topic, right? One month you talk to people, who do you know that's having a new baby or just had a baby? Who do you know that just got married? Like, this will give you content and communication tools for the entire year if you just focus on this, because all these people exist out there and they're ready to go. We just have to find them. And I really think it's just about, we've got to be more intentional about our database this year. You know, we're past the season of business just falling into our lap, and the people that are going to thrive are doing it intentionally. So it's a lot more right now about the current people in our database, connecting with them, the people that already like, know, and trust us, building those relationships deeper and adding value. That's what's going to create the movement in the industry right now, all around you, more so than random people that you don't have that type of relationship with. With that being said, total home sales, this is annual projection. So we're talking about the pink part right here. This is the prediction for where we'll probably end at the end of December. That's 2023. And then you can see there's a projection for what they're predicting in 2024. So at the end of September, we were at about like 3.9 million total home sales for the year. They're projecting we'll probably finish around approximately 4 million, 4.1 maybe million in home sales for the year. It's actually, and this is just awareness, it's not a Debbie Downer thing or anything like that. They're predicting it as they are getting ready to close out the year that it's going to be the worst year home sales wise. And it's the largest single decline year over year that we've ever had in history. And they're very optimistic for 2024. NAR actually is predicting, which, you know, we'll see. And remember, we're looking at this pink line right here. NAR is actually predicting 4.7 million in home sales for 2024. In my opinion, I mean, I don't know. I'm not NAR, right? So they maybe know more than I do. But I'm very interested to see if it is that high next year. It sounds to me like a little optimistic. But I know with like the interest rates that they're predicting, the pent up sellers and all of that, that's what they see coming. And so remember, that's also after being down 20% the past 2 years. So it's probably not going to get back to the 2020 number because that was enormous, but it's a substantial increase comparably. And that's very promising, right? More business to be had for those that work strategically. And that is also really important to think about. Those that work strategically, there's a lot of smart real estate agents out there that are great at staying in touch with their sphere. So even though home sales will be up, you're not going to accidentally get those clients. You've got to do it on purpose, right? So Dr. Yoon is saying that 2023 is probably what's the hardest year. So we're almost through the hard, which is great news. They also are predicting a drop of about 15% of agents out of the industry this next year in 2024. So lots more people exiting the industry, which just gives you more opportunity to take market share and choose to double down and be the people that stick. So you're looking at basically, in a nutshell, higher home sales, lower agent count. And he also did talk about that home ownership is still a huge part of being an American. He said that multiple times through the presentation, and how it's still a huge part of the American dream. And that it's alive and well. And that's encouraging, right? Now, I'm not going to spend tons of time on this, but he didn't actually say much about the lawsuits either, but he did touch on it. So I wanted to share that with you. So he did say, as far as the lawsuit goes, that he feels that it affects first-time home buyers the most, because of course, if you can imagine, for first-time home buyers, they're already having to put money down in order to afford the payment to buy the house, right? And then a lot of that money is coming from gift money and stimulus money, so they don't have a lot of substantial, right? I mean, we've all seen it, right? A lot of first-time home buyers are just barely making it to the finish line with the down payment and closing costs and all of the things that's going on. And so the challenge with first-time home buyers, as you can see, with the amount of down payment that they put in. Oh, let me admit, sorry. There we go. You can see 22% of buyers put 1 to 5% down, 16%. I mean, 20% of buyers are putting 20% down, and more than 26% of buyers are putting more than 20% down for first-time home buyers. So that means like more than 46%, almost half of all first-time home buyers are putting more than 20% down plus. So that's how they're able to afford the home, right? Because the prices are a lot higher and interest rates are high. So how do they get the payment that they want, right? It needs to be a lower amount that they're getting financed. And so anyways, understanding that process and helping to support them around that. I think really one thing we have to do as agents is just work with our lenders. Who's your lender partner, and how can you continue to connect first-time home buyers with resources and tools to have the most affordable home purchase possible as far as financing. There's great down payment assistance grants, all sorts of different things that you can help. But then also, then my point with what I digressed from was it's the structure of paying their agent, right? Because having to come up with closing costs, down payment, and upfront, we all know that the agent gets paid anyway out of the financing, right? It's built into the mortgage, but it can be really devastating to be like, oh, and you owe another $10,000, right? And so I think that's a challenge that all of us are looking at, of like, oh, how do I have that conversation? And we're going to continue to talk about that. Remember, we're launching a buyer whole training series of working with buyers as a buyer agent starting in January. It's going to be a 6-week series, and it's going to really equip and empower you. But that's really all he said about it, was that he discussed the challenge for first-time home buyers and why. And I think for us as agents, it's just about us understanding that and being able to communicate. Oh, sorry, first-time home buyer challenges. I didn't show you the slide right away, but you can see finding the right properties, saving for down payment, understanding the process. So, and especially understanding the process right here. I feel like that is one of our responsibilities, right? Is understanding and being able to communicate that value to both our buyers and our sellers, so that everybody understands like how we can all win together and how we can all cooperate and help people. So anyways, that's all he really had to say about that. Okay. Oh, I think that's my last slide. Oh, that's my last slide. Okay, so the only other thing I was going to say about all of this is, I know I touched on it already, but just really thinking like and embracing the reality that we're officially, like it's not coming, we are here. We're in a skills-based market. It is back. It is not a speed-based market like the last 4 or 5 years where you just were like running with your hair on fire and taking every piece of business that you could. It's skills-based. That means it's anybody's game, y'all. It's anybody's game. Like, even if you're on here and you're a brand new agent, you have the ability and power to develop the skills just like anybody else does. So don't be intimidated by that. We're all going to have to revisit skills, go back to the basics on some things, tweak some things. Remember, in 2024, you're not going to get a different result without making some changes and making some shifts. What are you going to do different in 2024 to take more business, take more mind share, stay in front of more people, and be top of mind? Because that's the secret sauce. And the smartest people are doing it right now. They're creating the plan and implementing it right now, because if you decide to implement the plan once everything gets hot and interest rates are low, you're going to be behind the 8 ball, and other people are going to be already taking the business that you wanted to get. So it's time to resharpen our skills. What's your buyer's presentation look like? I would really encourage you, start thinking about, I'm going to do a buyer's presentation just like I would do a listing appointment. And I'm going to give it that amount of respect and approach and skill. And I'm going to do great seller presentations. So have those presentations fine-tuned and beautiful. Make sure you're super knowledgeable and confident, so you're thoroughly explaining the process to your buyers and sellers, and they're crystal clear on what's happening and what's your value. How are you articulating your value? If you don't know what your value proposition is right now to clients, how you're serving them, then that needs to be adjusted immediately. And you need to get clear on that. And if you need to, let's have a conversation and I can help you with a clear-cut value prop, because that's going to be everything. It's time to up our conversation skills. Our value proposition has got to be strong. You've got to lean into that value that you provide. What makes it different to work with you than anybody else? Why should someone pay you? When you're confident in that and clear and sold out on why it's valuable, it won't be challenging to sell that to your clients and create amazing relationships. So even with agents getting out of the business, we're going to have objections. You're still going to hear things that you have to overcome. So be prepared for that. And I think we just got to really be confident and understand our conversations and dialogues with our buyers and sellers so that we can serve them at the highest level. And remember, that's really part of the value add right there, is knowing the process. And not only knowing the process, but really strategically knowing the solutions. How do you help your buyer or seller get to the finish line? How do you help them overcome challenges with finances or whatever the case may be? They're not in it every day like we are. They're not getting this knowledge on this Zoom like we are. They don't have all these resources. They don't have the same information that we do. And so that's your duty now, right? You equip and empower yourself so that you can then go and equip and empower the public and help them build wealth and set themselves up for success in the new year. Which I do want to say one last thing really quickly, in case this is helpful to anybody. So I was at a really awesome training yesterday with Jason Abrams, and he was talking about Coalition Properties. So if you guys don't know Coalition Properties, go follow them. It's a team of 3 African-American guys that built a huge team out of the Baltimore area. We had them actually on a Zoom here a couple months ago, but I thought it was a really cool approach. They're really passionate about helping their whole world, their sphere, their client base build wealth, and they talk about it. And so, for example, when they first sit down with a buyer for their buyer consultation, right? They'll say they're going to buy their first home. They say, great, we're going to help you do that. But you know what? We really actually want to help you also build wealth. We're going to put together a 5-year plan for you for how you can build wealth. And basically that plan looks like they buy a house, right? So start the process. Then their next piece of that 5-year plan is 2 years later, we're going to take the equity out of that house and we're going to buy a duplex. Then 1 year later, we're going to take the equity out of that duplex and we're going to buy a triplex. Then 1 year later, you're going to take that equity and income that's generated from those properties, buy your dream home and rent out the original. And it's this beautiful wealth plan that I think is really cool because it's really showing up to strategically empower your clients, right? You're not just there to sell a house. You're there to really, how can I help you build wealth long-term? And then first of all, it sets them up to buy 6 properties with you, 5 or 6 properties with you over 5 years, which is powerful. But also it gives you a communication plan, right? So let's say you have somebody that they're about to buy, you know, they bought their first home and now that their next step is to buy the duplex, right? For example. So that means when you're touching them and your touch point plan throughout the year, you're sending them resources that is applicable to that knowledge around buying multifamily housing, knowledge around how to use their income in different ways to generate, right? Like, and then you're talking to them when they get to the next step, all your communication shifts to that next step. So they really see that you're a partner with them in building wealth, not just a real estate agent that wants to help them buy or sell a house when they feel like it. So, and Brittany, their name is, Coalition Properties. I'll send their Instagram out I'll send this recording an email with the slides and their Instagram. But I just found that really inspiring. So in case that inspires anybody else, it's an approach that you could use with your clients in the new year. All right, awesome. We are wrapped up early for today. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Any questions, comments, things you want me to elaborate on? Anything at all? Awesome. I don't see any other questions here. Okay, great. Well, you guys are the best. I hope this empowers you. Go out, kick butt, take names, take market share, take your unfair share, right? There is so much business to be had. And that's what we're about here is putting more money in your pocket and helping you work strategically. So reach out if I can do anything to support you. And happy holidays, y'all. It's December 14th. Santa Claus is coming to town. So you guys have a great day and you're welcome. You're welcome. I'll definitely send out the slides. Talk soon. Bye.